Chris Austin, Vice President of Tax. Been with the organization just under 12 years. My parents owned Austin's Auto Repair Center, auto repair shop here in Mankato. Growing up, I went to school nearby, so I was in the shop every day, got to see entrepreneurship right up front and close. My dad would give the shirt off his back, help anybody that he could. My mom managed the operation, I'll call it, and learned my bookkeeping, accounting skills, and passion for numbers from her. In my childhood, we did a lot as a family. I have a younger sister. Did a lot of traveling, a lot of time spent together. Family time was very important to us as I was growing up. The BMX hobby started via a free press, what was it, an article or an ad for big wheel racing. And I found it sitting on the kitchen table, and I said, Mom, I want to go and do some big wheel racing. And so we went down to the track, which was just off Stoltzman Road, down from the college back then. Much like my dad would do everything, he retrofitted the plastic wheel with a rubber wheel for the big wheel racing, and it gave me quite an advantage over the other kids. And I was pretty dominant during the 1 year I did that, and from there it was a natural progression because the big wheel racing right before the BMX racing. And after doing well on the big wheel, I wanted to jump to the BMX, and I think that was 1987-ish. From there, never looked back. Been racing BMX ever since. My best friend that I've had for my entire life, I spent last weekend with him, has been racing side by side with me since then. The best part of the sport for me, though, is my dad picked up the sport probably 91, 92, and he raced right up until he had a stroke last year at the age of 70. I still participate in race BMX, and my two daughters, who are 17 and 13, also race alongside me. So it's been a three-generation sport now. I've had the opportunity to travel throughout the United States. I've won in excess of 15 state championships, and to be able to do a sport, do a hobby that I'm passionate about right alongside other members of my family, both father and daughters. My wife raced for a few years as well until she crashed, and she was a homemaker at the time, and could possibly impede her ability to do what she needed to do with the baby at home. So she stepped back from the sport, but it's been ingrained in the Austin family for a very long time. That's my goal. I hope to continue to do it until I'm 70. Hope to be able to have children around in some capacity. We'll see where life takes them. And but I still have a solid group of friends that will encourage me to be there, because as you get older, it's easier to sit at home than it is to jump on a BMX bike. Probably safer to stay at home. But it's something that I hope to continue for a very long time. My favorite memory would have been an early 90s state championship BMX race. It was a season where I had a lot of success, went undefeated most of the year, and all culminated with the state championship race. My dad was racing at the time. He was also state champion. My sister was still racing at that point in time, and that moment really signifies what we had as a family, and through BMX, but also the success of working hard and paying off. So we got our first horse, first pony, when I was 11. That was something that my sister and I were pushing my mom and dad to buy for us. We had sheep at the time. My grandpa and my mom both found the same home magazine ad on the same day where there's two ponies for sale. We went and looked at them and ended up buying two ponies. And from there, my mom got back into horses. She had horses when she was both at home, younger, and then also right when I was born, and then sold her horse when I came along. From there, we owned a few other horses, quarter horses, Arabians after that. But I had the opportunity to work and clean stalls and feed horses for a ranch across the road from us, and who had Peruvian horses. And a Peruvian horse is a gaited horse. And so if you think of a normal trotting horse bouncing along, gaited horses are smooth and move in a fashion that, very little movement to the body. And it piqued the interest for my mom and dad, my sister and I. And so we bought our first Peruvian horse from that ranch. And then from there, wanted to develop a breeding program that started in the late 90s. And since then, we use our horses for pleasure, number one, take them trail riding. We also show and do some breeding. And we've had the opportunity to breed and exhibit national champion horses. And there again aligns with the BMX racing, great family sport. Everybody competes. That's how I met my wife, is through the horses. And in would have been the let's call it 2008, 2010 time period, I became intrigued to go on and become a judge of Peruvian horses. And since that time, I've had the opportunity to judge throughout the United States in 6 different countries. And the people I've met along the way, whenever you can be around a group of people who have the same passion that you do, it's a great experience, and meet many different people throughout the world. The first vehicle was a 1966 pickup. Had the opportunity to restore that with my dad, some very good memories from that. Overall, as soon as I started working in the front of the shop and digging into numbers, I found more passion in that. While still having a passion for vehicles and tinkering on the weekends, the long-term plan became round numbers and not cars. And from there, it was a vision to step into the CPA role. 1966 pickup that my dad found for sale in the paper, and it was in dead middle in January. We went to look at it. The guy that owned it had built a duplicate truck with his best friend, who ended up having a motorcycle accident passing. So he just parked it, and the mice had gotten after it, and the motor needed to be overhauled, transmission. Ironically, the last time it was used for mudding. I got a bunch of water and pulled it out in the middle of January, and broke the transfer case and transmission as we were towing it back to the shop. But from there, I got the opportunity to restore it with my dad. I think I bought it when I used my own money when I was 14, and we had it on the road by the time I turned 16. It was not original. It was lifted, had bigger tires on it. We put a bigger motor in it, so definitely wasn't for original look. Ended up putting a sunroof in it. It was a dark shade of blue, and it a lot of good memories, both driving it and working with my dad on the truck. I still own it today.
Very cool. And it gets out, right?
It gets out, yep. We use it to travel to and from BMX races, because the BMX track is just down the road. It's not a vehicle. It probably gets 5 to 6 miles per gallon, so it's not a vehicle we drive very often or for very long distances, but it's great for going to ice cream and BMX races with the family. Dad was a mechanic. His tenacity to fix anything that was in front of him, took great pleasure in fixing cars that other people couldn't fix. But what really stands out about my dad is his willingness to help anybody. I mean, he really, he was driven to help people. He would, most people would be annoyed by a call at 8 o'clock on a night, Saturday night, Monday night, you name it, asking for help, and he would jump off the couch and be willing to help them. And while different, in my accounting career and finance career, I still find that same desire to want to help people. My dad also gave back to the community in various ways. Both my mom and dad did. Ran the BMX track here in town for over 10 years. I learned from my mom patience and the real true family love and what family unity feels like. Very grounded individual, and really leader of our family and leader of the shop operations as well. My parents taught me the value of a hard day's work. Big believer in what goes around comes around. So giving back to the community, helping those in need, helping out a friend, a family member in time of crisis. Relationship with my sister taught me the value of having close, that close family dynamic, and somebody that will always be there for you. MSU is the obvious choice. I had convinced my parents to build quite an infrastructure with the horses. And, so me staying by close for the breeding program and to take care of horses was important. MSU had a great accounting program, so it was a natural fit. So as a sophomore in college, I had the opportunity to participate in a study with another student and a professor. And as part of the study, once we did it over the course of a summer, and as part of that study, then we got the opportunity to go and present to a panel in Florida. It was a study on poverty. I didn't have a suit to wear, so on my mom's birthday, my mom, dad, and sister and I left her dinner and went to the mall to buy a suit. My dad and sister were bored, as you can appreciate, And while they were walking around the mall, they ran into my future wife, who happened to be manning a booth for her grandpa. She had recently moved into town from Northern California. She was also going to school at MSU. And he needed, I think it was Farm Fest or something along those lines, and they owned an egg business. So she stepped in to man the booth. My dad, and she was selling pressure washers. And my dad was interested in pressure washers. And during the conversation about pressure washers, I moved to horses, and that she was new to town and looking for things to do, and that she was also an equestrian. And at that time, we were looking for help with chores and looking for help with riding. And so he invited her out to see the farm and see if what would work. So she actually came out when I was in Florida presenting the study, and met my mom, dad, and sister first. I came home after the trip to Florida and had the opportunity to meet her down at the barn, and the rest is history. So we have two daughters, a senior in high school, an 8th grader. My oldest is mainly using PSEO and going to Gustavus. Looking to go there full-time next fall. And then 8th grader looking to move into senior high next fall as well. Blessed that they both enjoy doing hobbies that I enjoy. Great young ladies. Couldn't be more proud of them. Best part of being dad is just to be able to watch two young ladies turn into awesome women and being a part of the journey, constantly evolving, constantly changing, and just watching their experiences grow and being, at least in the early years, in charge of those experiences, and really trying to foster the type of experiences throughout life that raises, contributing and powerful young women. So after I graduated from college, I did an internship with what was Wolf Etter at the time, Wolf Etter and Company, a CPA firm here in Mankato. Did that for a semester. Had the opportunity, they invited me back full-time. Then after I finished out my last fall semester and graduated from MSU, I worked at Eide Bailly for just under 11 years. And during my time there, mainly focused on income tax. But during that time, I had the opportunity to work on a lot of work for the Taylor Corporation, Glenn Taylor himself, the Minnesota Timberwolves, his egg processing plant in Iowa. So I became very familiar with Taylor and the subsidiary, and affiliates and subsidiaries during that time period. After those 11 years, Taylor was looking to insource some of the accounting and tax work, and it was a natural fit. I was looking, my girls were getting to an age where public accounting and the hours demand was at a level that was in excess of what was making me happy, and especially because I wanted more time with my family. And so it was a very natural fit because of my time at Eide Bailly working on Taylor Corporation, and knowing many of the coworkers that I have today, for the 10 years prior. It was an easy transition. It was during that first couple years where I asked Deb Taylor and Glenn Taylor for more responsibility when it came to really trying to branch out of not just Taylor Corporation, but having the whole package, and really being able to drive more value through knowing more and being able to facilitate that and align with what Glenn's tax goals should be. So Glenn's very charitably inclined. He has spoken publicly of his desires of Taylor Corporation and his other entities and the positive impact that they're going to have, going forward. He started that process in 2023, and I had the opportunity to really lead that project in donating $173 million worth of farmland and doing it in a tax efficient way, in a way that is ensured to carry on his legacy. And won't get into the details here, but it was a unique approach on where we landed in bringing together, advisors and, obviously getting Glenn's buy-in. But Taylor Family Farms Foundation formed late in 2023 and really became active this very first year with the board of 5. Get to serve with Jamie Mulvihill and others from 3 different supported organizations. And we were able to give out just a little over $2 million last year. Had our first grant round in October of last year and really focusing on emergency medical services. And it was amazing to see the need, which was overwhelming, but also be able to step in and fulfill at least a portion of that need. Things like jaws of life. We think, at least in my mind, that cars would be easier to cut into today versus the old steel cars, what we would think of, but it's actually the opposite. A lot of the materials of today's cars can't be cut by the older jaws of life. So to have these smaller communities, I should say Taylor Family Farms Foundation mainly focuses on southern Minnesota and northern Iowa, but these small communities don't have the budget to buy these new jaws of life. And so for us, for Glenn's generosity and the board to be able to direct those funds in that matter has been very rewarding. The most challenging part would be keeping up with Glenn. He's very active, and making sure that I'm always aware of any new businesses that he's going to be buying, obviously, or selling, and the operations and the income from those different businesses. But it really is mirroring up all the changes and constant activity from Glenn with constant activity from tax law, and making sure at the end of the day we pay our fair share, but nothing more.